The specific learning need that I chose to focus on was attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD, specifically related to a classroom setting. ADHD is one of the most common childhood mental disorders, and it's characterized by sustained inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. So an individual with ADHD will most likely struggle with paying attention to certain things at a time, controlling their behaviors or outbursts, and having a hard time sitting still, or always needing to fidget or move in some sort of way. It's estimated that at least one child with ADHD is present in every classroom, and the cause of ADHD is still unknown. Specifically in the classroom, from the two articles that I read for research for this presentation, I have found that there's a strong effect on both the child's classroom environment and their teacher on both their social and cognitive behaviors. So I know specifically for me, my two students that I had this year with ADHD, I definitely noticed a large impact on their behaviors with the classroom environment. So when there would be a substitute teacher or when there was any sort of change in the routine, those students in particular definitely had a hard time controlling their actions or staying focused, as opposed to when it was a normal day and I was there and the routines were as they would expect. And these were just two quotes that I found from an article that I referenced before. Basically, these again state that teachers that are more knowledgeable and patient and just have an overall positive attitude towards ADHD help their children in their classroom with ADHD feel at ease and just have an overall more positive year as opposed to not. And just in general, children with ADHD are very strongly affected by their environment, whether that's home or school. So the question that I chose to ask myself in relation to ADHD in the classroom was, how can I help my students feel less overwhelmed and more organized in my classroom? Because as I just mentioned, the two students that I had this year in particular with ADHD had a very hard time in situations where there was something that happened out of the routine, or just they needed a simple way, even if it was a normal day and a normal routine, for how to stay more organized so they would not get overwhelmed. So a tech tool that I found is called Do by a company called Funify, and it is available on the iTunes store, and it's free. It's unfortunately not available for Android devices, but it is basically a motivating to-do list app, which I particularly really liked because I am a user of Class Dojo in my classroom, which is a reward system, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from my students with that. So this is something that I could definitely see using that would kind of be used in conjunction with the Class Dojo awards, and it would hopefully motivate my students as well. So basically how this works is it is a to-do list app. So I would use this in my classroom for students with ADHD as a to-do list of tasks that they needed to accomplish when they come into my classroom. So they know specifically what they have to get done, and then as soon as they get all of those things done, they are both rewarded and they are then able to have free time or whatever award I choose to offer them. So you can see on the furthest to the left picture, this is just an example of what it would look like for my point of view as the teacher. I would put in tasks for them to do, and then once I see that the student has accomplished those, I would click the approve button or the thumbs up that's on the right side. And you can add whatever it is that you would like. So there's preset options and then just regular options for you to type in whatever task that you would like to add to your students' to-do list. And you can add points, like I mentioned. I think it goes up to 1,000 points that you can award your student for a particular task. You can, if you see this orange box right here, you can set the task for either one day or multiple days, which is pretty nice. So as a teacher, you're always trying to eliminate work for yourself. So if you put in one task and it's a daily task, you only have to do that once, which is pretty nice. And you can also, if you choose, it gives you pictures to set with the task. You can take a picture of something, or there are preset pictures in there for you. And as I mentioned, also there are awards that you can award your students when they accomplish tasks and get a certain number of points. So this is just an example of one that I created quickly, which was 10 minutes of free time, which my students would earn if they got up to 500 points for accomplishing all their tasks. So that I found would be, again, pretty motivating for my students that I'm thinking of that I had this year, because they were very extrinsically motivated, and it would tie into the award system that my whole entire class uses, which would do a great job at making them not feel excluded, but also helping them accomplish their goals in the classroom. And this is just an example of what it would look like from the student's point of view. There is a login page that looks like this, and literally all they do is touch their name and slide it all the way to the right. And there is also a password option as well. This is what it would look like once they're logged in, so they can click on their tasks, or they can click on the rewards that they have, and it shows them their accumulation of points. And once they click on their task page, this is an example of what it would look like. So I have the task of pack up that I gave to my example student, and that task is worth 50 points. And this is where the picture that you can choose would show up. So they would know once they open up the app that this is the task, or there would be multiple tasks that they have to accomplish. Overall, I found the affordances of this app is that, like I said, it's very motivating. It is colorful, so it's definitely kid-friendly. It's very easy to set up, and it's free. One thing I didn't like, though, is that students can't check off tasks that they accomplish. Like if you look at the screen right here, there's no way for the student to check off that they accomplished the task. So that would be a nice feature for this app to add in the future. But other than that, this is definitely an app that I could see being helpful for students in my classroom with ADHD in the future to help them stay on task and feel less overwhelmed and more focused in my classroom. So I encourage you definitely, if you have students with ADHD in your classroom, or if you would like to try this out yourself with your own kids or for yourself as a to-do list, I definitely would recommend this app. And these are the references that I used.